the Draft Podcast, presented by Pepsi. Another emergency pod here. Ethan Greenberg, EA, Anthony Becht, Erik Coleman. It looks like I'm pointing directly at the camera, but really Anthony and Erik Coleman are on the other side of the BetMGM studio here, and the Jets. So far, we're recording this 10:18 p.m. The third round's still going on. The Jets have no third-round picks, but at pick 34, they add to the offense wide receiver Elijah Moore out of Ole Miss. EA, let's start with you. What do you like about the pick?
I love the pick. Great value. Joe Douglas said it after the pick that the New York Jets think they have selected 3 players in this draft with first-round value. They were shocked he was there at the start of the second round, crossed their fingers that the Jacksonville Jaguars went in another direction, and they sure did. And you're talking about the most productive receiver in the best conference in all of college football last year. Averaged nearly 150 yards receiving per game, nearly 11 catches per game. You can line them up all over the field. This is a nice weapon, AB, for your rookie quarterback, Zach Wilson.
Yeah, you're right. I think it's great. I think a lot of people probably thought or would have guessed defense would have been this pick, right? But I think when you think about it a little bit about what Joe Douglas's mindset is, he's like, I'm not going to allow this quarterback to fail. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm going to be deliberate about what I'm going to do, and I'm going to get him another weapon. And like when I look at Elijah Moore, I think about slot guy / gadget guy / one-on-one guy on the outside. He can do so much for you. Catch the ball literally at the line of scrimmage and get you 7, 8, or even a touchdown, a home run yard. So I think it's a smart pick. I think, like you said, Erik, when you have a guy that's rated in the top 25 on your board and he's still available at 34, then bam, you pounce on that. And it's someone that can contribute to the football team immediately. I mean, think about it. For a group of wide receivers on this football team last year, now coming into this season, man, totally different look for this football team. You got to be excited about it.
Yeah, you do have to be excited. I mean, Elijah Moore is, he's a well-rounded receiver, an excellent route runner, does a great job of finding holes in defenses, beating one-on-one coverage, and once he gets the ball in his hands, he's very dynamic. I mean, you're talking about a guy who has 10 catches a game, but he's getting the yards after catch as well. He's physical. He's tough. He's a punt return type guy, which is always tough for defensive backs, right? You're covering a guy, and once he gets the ball, he has all this space in front of him, and he can shake and bake, and he can take it the distance.
I mean, we're watching highlight videos versus Florida, LSU, Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn. I mean, these are – I bet you the SEC has the most players drafted right now in the draft. So, I see a lot of space between him and those guys.
Oh yeah.
So, which leads me to believe that count on that happening in the league as well. So it's a good pick, man. I'm excited. I can't wait. And this kind of builds what's this offense going to be, man? And a guy like this can really be special.
Ethan, you had a chance to talk to him. Your takeaways, and also, what do you think about how Douglas has improved the position as a whole this offseason?
Well, to answer the last part of your question first, you think about where this receiving core was before free agency, and now you have Corey Davis, Denzel Mims, Keelan Cole, Jamison Crowder, Elijah Moore. Am I missing anybody? And then you go down, you go Braxton Berrios, Joe Douglas re-signed, Vincent Smith. I think Josh Doxson is still on this team, even though he signed last offseason.
He is. So is Jeff Smith.
Jeff Smith. Yep. I mean, wide receiver might be one of the deeper positions on the Jets now, and that was very much not the case at the beginning of the offseason. And really, with Elijah Moore, Anthony talked about it, right? The SEC play. Devontae Smith is the Heisman Trophy winner, plays in the same conference, and Elijah Moore led the country in receptions and receiving yards per game. And what I really liked about watching the highlights, you see him go over the middle, and he doesn't jump in the air to catch the ball. He just runs right through it, and Daniel Jeremiah talked about it. I'm curious what all three of you think about the different player comparisons that came to air, let's say, after Elijah Moore was drafted. Booger McFarland compared him to Steve Smith. And then I saw Reggie Wayne compared Elijah Moore to Santana Moss. So let's start with you, EA. What do you think about the comparisons there? And I do want to say, player comparisons is a weird exercise to begin with. So I just want to leave that at that.
Well, Erik defended against Steve Smith, so I'd like to get his thoughts on it. And I'm not saying Elijah Moore's going to be as productive as Steve Smith, because you look at those numbers over the course of his career, amazing. And that's a nice comparison. He should feel flattered about that comparison. But Steve Smith, well, he was a tough cookie. I think actually Elijah Moore probably has more straight ahead speed, right? He's a sub 4.4 guy. He's a 4.3 guy, but he's got that toughness to his game, and I love his versatility. Santana Moss was a little bit of a different player, I think, than Elijah Moore. What do you think, E?
Well, I do like both comparisons. Steve Smith is an amazing route runner as well. He's great after the ball. But Santana Moss, when I watch Elijah Moore with the ball in his hands, or when he even running routes, he's one of those guys that can be running full speed, stop on a dime, change direction, and that was what Santana Moss did better than any receiver that I ever faced or played with. Santana Moss, his change of direction was amazing, and I see that in Elijah Moore. But I like the Steve Smith comparison, the young Steve Smith. When he was coming out of Utah as a punt returner, he was a gadget guy. He ran excellent routes, but he can take the top off of defense as well. And I see all these things in Elijah Moore, and it's going to be exciting. When you get him with Zach Wilson, you have the protection up front, and then you add him with this core of wide receivers that you already have. I think it's just a great recipe.
Yeah, when I look at him, I think about like a blend of like Percy Harvin's kind of athleticism with Cole Beasley's instincts, right, on the end of the slot. So, he's a guy, again, like very twitchy, gets to space quickly, and once he gets on the move, man, he's really hard to defend. I mean, you're talking about, playing him at slot, outside receiver. He can be a running back, come out of the backfield, run routes, just like you saw there. He's the point man, inside guy on the bunch coming across the field. You think about the offense that the 49ers run, the play action stuff where they slide a receiver from left to right underneath the line. You can't see the guy, right? So he's going to slide out there, and now he's running a 4-3 with the ball in his hands, getting up the field before the linebacker or the end even figure it out. And you got your outside receiver running deep to pull out the corner. Who's stopping this guy in the first 15, 20 yards? So. Right. You can be really creative. You can really open up your book. And, if you're a defense, think about it. Like, okay, you got a guy like Mims. Like, what we saw just a small kind of a window with him last year. A guy that's got great catch radius, can make the contested catches. But, he's going to attract attention. Corey Davis, another guy. Again, we saw him blend in Tennessee with another Ole Miss receiver, A.J. Brown. Well, guess what? He's got another Ole Miss receiver here. So I don't know what that means, but hopefully it means good things, because they really hit it off pretty well in Tennessee. So, again, Joe thinking about, how do I make my quarterback better? How do I protect my quarterback, number one? And, if they can run the ball, they're going to have to run the ball this year. These guys become even bigger weapons. So I can't wait to see what this offense is. You think about just what the 49ers have done offensively under Kyle Shanahan, and we're getting that here. And that's innovation. That's a little bit more of, deception, play action, just – really honing in to the core of what offenses can be. But when you got speed wrapping around into it, man, what are you going to do if you're a safety? You come down the box, you go back, and bam, all of a sudden, Elijah Moore's running right by you with 4.3 speed. You're like, even you're leaving kind of situation. So it should be really fun to watch.
Fellas, think about this. Corey Davis, the number 5 overall pick in the 2017 NFL Draft. Jets think he's still an ascending player at 26 years old. Denzel Mims, AB mentioned him before, showing the flashes down the stretch. His rookie campaign.
He also has sub 4.4 speed at the combine.
Right, he's entering his second season. Corey Davis never ran because he was banged up before he got drafted by Tennessee, but he's in that range, but he's a physical specimen on the outside. And then, so Mims was a second-round pick, and now you're investing in an early second-round pick again in another receiver who you think had first-round value. And, oh, by the way, Joe Douglas on his board, Elijah Vera Tucker, was a top 10 player. They thought there was no way in heck that Moore's going to be there at 34. In fact, it would have been interesting, guys, if they didn't move up from 23 to 14, if they ended up taking more at 23.
Yeah, I think that's definitely in the cards. And that kind of leads me to my next point. So far, the Jets have had 3 picks. They don't have a third-round pick. We don't really know what's happening in the third round right now because we're in here recording the podcast. But the Jets have 6 picks on day 3. So, let's start with you, Anthony. What do you think is next for Joe Douglas? Not necessarily in terms of players, but maybe certain positions that you think the Jets should hit because they need to fill some holes here.
Yeah, well, corner, I could see, 3 corners maybe of these picks. I mean, why not, right? When you're talking about what they lack or what they're kind of shorthanded in, that's the position that comes to mind. And how many corners did we go through, with injuries and just trying to find a guy or sign a guy? I mean, it was crazy how many guys. So you need them. If you can get some guys that you feel like fit the system, you grab them. Now, you could also put some picks together and move up, but I was thinking that would be a good idea initially, right? You kind of get maybe you can get 5 core guys in the draft early, and they can be players for you. But you need depth, you need bodies, right? You need players. You need more than just 5 guys. You do need those picks. So maybe at the end of the third they think about doing something, but I just think you sit tight. And if you need to make a little bit of a move without totally giving away a bunch of assets, you kind of look at that. But man, just do your homework. This is what good scouts do, right? Good organizations, personnel people, they got everything lined up for the situation and scenario so that player is the best possible fit in that moment. And they think that those guys, whether it's 4th, 5th, 6th round, they can be contributors to the football team. And if you're lucky and you hit a starter in those rounds, I mean, that's jackpot right there. Because you never really assume that. You hope they develop to that and they can be that. But man, you get a guy, and I've seen it we see it every year across the league. Somebody ends up being a star in those late rounds. The Jets got to find a way to find that guy.
Absolutely, and you mentioned it earlier when talking about how this year with COVID has changed everything with the scouting. And this year more than any other year, there's going to be a couple of players that slip through the cracks and end up in the 5th, 6th round. And if the Jets did their job scouting, I think they can find a gem. Cornerback position is obviously one that they need to help and bolster up. Also the linebacker position. I would like to see some more depth at the linebacker position. But I can see the Jets going back on the offensive side of the ball and getting some more offensive linemen as well. Yeah. So, really the sky's the limit. You have 6 picks, 6 opportunities to make this team better. And the Jets, please believe, they're going to pick the best players that are available and the best ones that fit this scheme.
What do you think, EA?
I think these guys are right. You're going to get at least 1 cornerback on day 3. Mm-hmm. Remember also, you're going to be very active in terms of your search for the top undrafted free agents out there. Day 3 is very important. In fact, I think you sat here in this chair just a few moments ago and talked to Joe Douglas, and he said this is where you can make a good draft a great draft with those day 3 finds. And think about it right now as we sit here before 10:30 night 2, Jets have selected 3 players. They have 6 draft picks on day 3. This is huge, and Anthony's right. You have to fill voids just in terms of depth. But with this team, since they are building, since it is the start of something with a new coaching staff, there are going to be opportunities for these guys who were taken in the 4th round to come in and make immediate contributions. So defensively, yeah, I'm thinking corner, and I'm also thinking linebacker down the line here. Offensive line always. But offensively, what stands out to me so far, and I want to get your thoughts on it, Ethan, and everybody's, is the speed is really coming to light. It's not only that this draft is always going to be remembered for the Jets taking Zach Wilson at number 2, but you see an element of speed here this offseason that I don't know if this team has had in the past.
Yeah, I think Coach Saleh talked about it from the day that he was hired, right? The need for speed. And I know I mentioned this earlier, but I think it's kind of forgotten Denzel Mims ran a 4.38 at the Combine because he hurts his hamstring, both of them, and then it never really seemed like he ever pushed the gas as hard as he could. So maybe with a full offseason, he's able to do so. And you add Elijah Moore, Corey Davis. I mean, I really do think that the speed at the skill position player. Even Ty Johnson's someone who has burners. So I think the speed is definitely increased. And, I want to wrap up the podcast with a fun question. And I'm curious, as two former players sit across the BetMGM studio. Let's start with them. Earlier today, there was this phenomenon on Twitter where Zach Wilson's mother posted on Instagram stories a number 2 jersey. Yes. Everyone's saying,
you love jersey numbers.
I'm a big jersey number guy. They're saying, what is going on here? Zach Wilson wears number 1 at BYU. Is he going for number 2? He told the media he has not decided. So, Coleman, let's start with you. Zach Wilson, are you pro number 1? Are you pro changing the number to number 2 or anything else?
Well, and you can address your beef right now because you have some beef with somebody in the organization, 26 Coleman.
Oh, man. Yeah.
So hit that first and then get
Okay. I don't think
Wilson.
it should be a beef, right?
Yeah, well, at first it was beef because it was like, man, Tevin Coleman, he's going to have the Coleman on the last name. He was with the Falcons. Number
Right.
26,
Yeah.
Coleman. That was my number. That's my name. And so I'm like, man, he's erasing me from the books because he's probably a better player than I was. And then he's coming to the Jets now. I'm excited to see him here. Anthony kind of changed my thinking about that. Now I can, if he does well, I can buy his jersey.
Jersey sales, man.
Jersey sales go up.
They
Hey,
don't
that's
know
me.
it's him. It's
Yeah,
you.
That's all me.
Exactly.
So I'm going to take all the credit for that one. But, when I talk about Zach Wilson, listen, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Wearing number 1 is what got you here. You're a star. To wear number 1 in the great state of New York, it's going to be something special.
Now, did that rule is that official? Can that
Yes.
happen?
Yes.
The number thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
but
thing is,
quarterbacks could always do that.
Oh, they could.
They
Okay.
could.
all
Well,
right.
you do have to clarify this. There's
But-
somebody on the roster who does have number 1 right now, Jaleel Scott. Yeah, I know all these things can.
I'm not worried about him.
Yeah, no
because
disrespect.
he can be bought out. I'm
I'm going to look that up. I'm going to look that up. About that.
I remember there was a player, established player in the league, wanted to change his number. I think it was Dalvin Cook, from number 33 to 4 that he used to wear.
Right.
Yep.
But the league told him he was going to have to pay the $1.4 million in jerseys that are out there for sale if he wants to change his number.
right.
That's
so
the
you
thing.
probably won't see a lot of veterans doing it, but the
Yeah.
rookie class will probably start that.
But EC, you're right. That's the thing because I remember there was I don't remember who the player was. It might have been Leonard Williams when he was here, wanted to change his number or was considering changing his number. And the equipment guy was like, well, if you do that, you have to buy out the rest of the jerseys that have already been made. And he said, you know what? I'm good with 92. Thank you very much. So, but Anthony's right, though. The number thing has changed. So, like, for example, Elijah Moore, who wore 8 at Ole Miss, could wear 8 with the Jets.
Okay.
But Zach Wilson could always wear number 1. So, with that being said, I'm curious your take.
Yeah, look, man. Listen, like Deion Sanders said back in the day, right? Look good, play good. Like, if that's the kid wants to wear that number, give it to him. Like, I mean, there's some mental stuff around that thing for people, man. Trust me, I've been around players, like, if it ain't what it was in college or high school, like, they're not the same dude. So if that's going to make him the same cat we're seeing on tape every single, play that we've been running through, the highlights at BYU, let that kid wear number 1. I'm good with it. If he wants it, give it to him. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But I'm all good with it.
I want to interject about the Jaleel Scott thing.
Yeah.
He was number 1
Okay.
until he was signed to the active roster and needed to change his number because the rule was not in effect until this offseason. So he's number 18.
He is
on the
number
roster,
18.
on the Jets
so
roster.
right now, there is no 1.
There is no number 1. The first number the Jets have on their roster is number 3, and that's Chase McLaughlin, the kicker.
Okay, so again, you're fascinated with the numbers. What I will say as far as Zach Wilson is concerned is you be you. Whatever works for Zach Wilson, you be you. You wear a headband, bring it here. Bring it to New York. I don't need you to change up. Whatever you're doing, it worked at the college level. You don't come here and change who you are. And that's on a serious note, too. You don't change who you are as a player. Sure, we can work to be better versions of ourselves, but I don't need him to come here and choose a quarterback number and not wear a headband and change who he is. Part of the attraction or allure of Wilson is people in that locker room gravitate towards him. They love his style of play. And listen, I want my quarterback to have a little bit of swag, a little bit of gravitas.
I think number 1 has a little more of what you just said than number 2, but if he wants to go with number 2,
Hey,
go ahead.
Listen, I wore a bandana, by the way, when I was in college. I came to the league. They
Hold on,
banned-
you did when you were early, when you played early in the league. Didn't
Yeah,
you?
they banned it, and then you had to go to the skull cap thing. So I went skull cap after that. But
You and Vinny Testaverde.
yeah, we
Yep.
were skull cap guys. But
Did you guys comb your hair backwards before you put the skull cap
yeah,
on?
of course. Like, it was well matted down. But I was a bandana guy coming in because you could wear that in college. And I was told I couldn't wear that after a while. So
Bandana
maybe
Becht,
that
huh?
changed me as a player.
Yeah, you're hurt
Who
by it.
knows? I was.
You know what I love about Wilson, too, with the headband, the bandana? You go back to Jim McMahon.
I was
Jim
thinking the same thing.
Jim
yeah.
McMahon wearing that bandana, loved it. Loved it.
Yeah, that was before my time, but I did like when I watch, when I was watching stuff on the 85 Bears and whatever, and when Jim McMahon was playing, I saw the headband. I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And, if I do agree with EC. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if you want to change it, go for it. I mean, we'll see what happens, right? I will say the one thing that Zach Wilson said on a totally other note, and then I'm going to wrap up, which I thought was cool. Someone said, hey, like essentially, hey, we know you look young. How are you going to walk into the NFL and the bright lights of the Big Apple and lead a locker room? He said, listen, some of my best friends have 3 kids. That's what happens at BYU because everyone's older. Everyone goes on missions and comes back, so he's used to it. And that is the way we're going to end this episode of the official Jets podcast, the Draft Podcast, presented by Pepsi. We're back tomorrow with a full draft recap.